Let's turn our attention to the markets now. The JSE looking set to open to weaker Asian markets this morning and may extend its four-session losing streak as investors consider the threat posed by Omicron as well as possible tightening of U.S. monetary policy. Matete Thulare is head of foreign exchange execution at the Rand Merchant Bank, and he joins us now to discuss these developments. And Dr. Thulare, thank you very much for your time. So the JSE having weakened consistently throughout, and talk us through how the markets have opened in early trade.
Good morning, Collie. I suppose after very poor price action yesterday, we've seen the JSE close on its lows, and we're actually bracing ourselves for another weak day with Asian markets following the U.S. markets lower last night. And I suppose when you just look at the S&P futures, that is trading about 19 points lower from our close amid, as you said, obviously the economic caution and the risks from the Omicron virus, and also central bank efforts to rein in inflation. As we all know, there is a much anticipated Federal Reserve meeting that is taking place from today, and we're going to have the announcement tomorrow. That's also followed by the Bank of England and also the ECB on Thursday. And then on Friday, as we close the week, we do have the Bank of Japan. And then also from a local perspective today, we're going to have the Bureau of Economic Research releasing the consumer confidence numbers in the next 20 minutes. So that's obviously going to be something that we do watch out for. But also, as I say, it's going to be a very interesting week, given the fact that we've even got a holiday on Thursday, and obviously we've got the Federal Reserve releasing their announcement tomorrow night. So obviously Friday will be a very interesting morning and day for the Rand and also the equity market.
Yeah, and just to, I think, be clear from my side, Matete, saying that the JSE having weakened consistently since last Tuesday, as opposed to saying throughout. Let's take a look at the performance of the Rand, which continues to trade around the 16 Rand against the US dollar mark. Does this trade suggest a difficult Christmas period for the local currency?
So look, Claudia, I suppose, between today and tomorrow, the theme will really be the same. We're all waiting for the Federal Reserve, announcement. I suppose the only thing that is different this morning is that markets are trading off a milder risk-off sentiment. We're just trading above that 16 to the dollar at this point in time. But like yesterday and probably today and tomorrow, markets are really going to be really range-bound and really eagerly awaiting the decision tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock. And I suppose when you just look at also U.S. equities, they have retreated from near record highs. Also, their treasury yields have also dipped. So that's also adding a slightly stronger dollar, and risk currencies will weaken slightly. But I suppose, as we say, we're going to be within these ranges till tomorrow evening, and therefore we're just waiting to see what happens from the Federal Reserve. I suppose if the message that comes through from them is that, look, we're going to kick the can down the road for longer and not hike interest rates as soon as expected, then potentially we could see the Rand strengthen. But if the message is much more hawkish from Jerome Powell and his counterparts at the Fed, then possibly we could see the Rand weaken on the back of this, as the markets will be anticipating a hike in interest rates sooner rather than later. So it is about the message. It is about what is said and not said from the Federal Reserve tomorrow evening.
Let's talk company news. MTN Nigeria and Mayfab Communications, you'll tell me if I'm pronouncing this correctly, they've been awarded Nigeria's first 5G high-speed spectrum licenses. Take us through what these developments mean.
Now, Tony, if you think about it, just before you even dabble into MTN and Mayfab, already we know one of the, reforms that we keep talking about is in the spectrum sector locally. That is something that we all have been talking about. Now, when you just look at MTN Nigeria, they won one of the 2 licenses on offer at the auction on Monday. The second one was granted to Mayfab Communications. They have also beaten Bharti Airtel's Africa units to this license. Now, both MTN Nigeria and Mayfab, they've reached the 11th auction, where the bid price was set at around $275 million for each of the licenses. Now, this is above the reserve price, which was around $197 million. Now, Nigeria, they have said that, look, they're aiming to deploy 5G over major urban areas in the country and become Africa's biggest network over the spectrum by 2025, as outlined by the Minister of Communications. Now, MTN has been extremely busy in Nigeria, as we would remember that about 3 weeks ago, they've already even secured approval for a public offer of ordinary shares in the Nigerian subsidiary. Now, already, the MTN group holds about 78% of MTN Nigeria, meaning that their shareholding will be reduced to about 65% as part of this process. But, if you've seen all the corporate action that's been taking place in Nigeria, it just suggests that MTN is looking to grow in that specific part of Africa, and they are actually looking at expanding their footprint in Africa. So I suppose, for them, it's actually boding as a good sign.
Yeah, let's wrap it up with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, which has launched a private placements market. What do these companies stand to benefit from this initiative, in your view?
So, look, this is really going to pave the way for the bourse to create an avenue for companies to raise capital through both private sale of both debt and equity. Now, private placements are a form of fundraising where companies will sell their securities, which is typically in the form of bonds or equity, directly to a select group of pre-qualified investors, rather than doing so in an open market. Now, this will allow companies to connect directly to investors via an automated and digital platform, which I suppose will also create a transparent and efficient and also accessibility to private placements in South Africa. Now, the intent is to really simplify, automate, and streamline the private capital raising process. Now, this comes at a time when, the bourse is really suffering from a continued delisting of companies, many of which have complained about, the cost burden of being listed and also regulation that has happened in this market. So I suppose, this is also now another avenue that a lot of companies will be looking at, and it actually just shows you how the JSE is also innovating itself.
Matete Thulare is the head of foreign exchange execution at the Rand Merchant Bank. Thank you very much for that markets update.